This is the front center panel where all of your Pintucks will go. Right now, as you see, it's just a rectangle. It doesn't have a top or a bottom because I cut this out of a non-directional fabric, meaning that all of my little flowers can go this way or that way. It doesn't really matter. But if you've cut this panel out of a directional fabric, like animals or flowers or fruit that has a certain direction to it, then you'll definitely want to make sure that you mark all of this at the top of your fabric, because otherwise everything will end up upside down. So the first thing we'll need to do is overlap your paper pattern over your rectangle at the top. Make sure that everything is facing the right way, and you'll mark your center notch the same way we did all the other notches. I just cut like a little V, maybe between an eighth and a quarter inch. I didn't cut this perfectly. There we go. And that way we'll have that center notch in there forever. Won't get lost. There's my little notch. Next thing is marking all of these stitch and fold marks. And the reason I like to do it the way I'm going to show you is because all of these marks are they're exactly a quarter inch apart from each other. So if you mark them all with notches or all with a marking tool, once you get to the sewing machine or the ironing board, it's just going to look like a jumbled up mess of lines, and you're not going to know which one's which. Trust me, I designed this pattern and even I got confused the first time I did it. So that's why I developed this special method of marking that will make sure you do not get confused later on. So I'm going to move this sideways so that I can mark everything easier. Overlap your paper pattern over your fabric again, but this time we're going to put it about an eighth of an inch away from the edge, like this. And make sure your top is perfectly aligned. Your fold marks, which are your solid lines, I'm going to mark with a little notch. And it's not going to be a V, it's going to be just a perfect little cut, about an eighth of an inch into the fabric. And your stitch marks are going to be marked with a marking tool. I'm going to do all of the fold marks first, just so we can get all the cuts out of the way. So this is the way I'm going to do it. And I suggest you do it the same way. Line up your embroidery snips right next to the fold and just snip into the fabric a little bit like this. At every single, make sure you're doing it right where the mark is. Precision is everything for perfect Pintucks. If they're even just a smidgen off, it's not going to look right in the end. I'm going to switch this just so I can have a better view of it, again, because precision is key. And we're going to snip the other side. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to point out is that if you're sewing sizes 12 months through 4T, you're making 6 Pintucks. But if you're sewing the larger sizes, 5 through 8, 9, you will be making 8 Pintucks. We ended up adding extra Pintucks on that one because it just fit better with the size of the dress. So now, as you'll see, I have all of my fold marks perfectly marked in here, and I'll be able to take it to the ironing board later on and fold it right where both of those marks line up. Now, my stitch marks, this is the way I'm going to do them. It's the easiest method I could figure out. Again, line it up so you have a little bit of space at the end. You could actually have a larger space for this one because we're actually going to be using a ruler to mark the whole line. So make sure your top edge is perfectly aligned like this, and then just mark where your stitch marks go, like this. All the way down, just like we did the fold marks. There and there. Oh, one more thing. Make sure you don't use a marking tool that disappears with heat, like the friction pens or something, because the first thing that happens after this is you iron those pins that you're going to press everything, so all of your markings will disappear. So this is a different kind of, this is a air erasable fabric marking pen, but there's like water soluble, there's many different kind of marking tools. Just don't use the heat ones or then all of your work will be gone after you first press it. And this one and this one, and then I'm going to mark the other side real quick. It's important that you have these edges perfectly lined up because you don't want your stitching marks to end up crooked. That. I'm sewing the size 2, so I only have 6 marks to make for each one. And so now I just take my little straight edge ruler and sort of connect the dots. So you just want to mark all the way across. Even if it's light, you'll still see it. You'll end up with 6 stitch marks all at the end of this one, or 8 if you're sewing the larger sizes. Make sure you align those marks perfectly so that your stitch mark is not crooked. Like I said before, precision is everything for the perfect pin tucks. And on this dress, you will see how beautiful it looks once you get everything measured and marked perfectly. Wonderful. So now we have our pin tuck panel is perfectly marked. We have our notch at the top, we have our fold marks, which are little cuts into the sides, and we have all 6 of our stitch marks. So now it's time to go and create our perfect pin tucks.